This is the first summary of a series of 4 short stories that Stephen Crane has written that came bundled with the Red Badge of Courage. Today we'll be doing The Upturned Face. I will be now switching to this page, The Upturned Face. This is the contents page of the book that I took a photo of. Now, let's get started with The Upturned Face. It's a story more or less about the burial of a soldier, who's probably a dead comrade, in the middle of a war. Doesn't specify what war, also I like to think it's the Civil War of America, mainly because I just finished reading Red Badge of Courage. What other kind of war is still fresh in my mind? So as I was saying, the dead comrade and his comrades are all surrounding around him. I should probably draw them as blue because they're not dead. His comrades are all surrounding him and they're discussing what they should go ahead and do with his body. Not going to get into the specifics here, but all I'm going to say is there's a guy named Timothy Lean. Timothy Lean. And then there's also a guy named the Adjutant. Now, these two people, they're going ahead and they're mostly the kind of people who you're going to see in the story. They're discussing what they should do with the body, and then they say bury him, and they're in the middle of a battle. So bullets are whizzing by at the same time. And the adjutant is saying stuff about, like, hey, maybe we should just leave him tomorrow when it's safer, because, like, you know, dead bodies, and we're in the middle of a battle. You think we have time to bury it and survive to live the tale? Our Timothy is always saying that they cannot survive this, and that they're going to have to go ahead and bury him now because they can't hold this place for more than an hour or 30 minutes at most, and they need to bury him now if they ever want to bury him ever. So while bullets are whizzing all around them, they start to go ahead and start digging somewhat of a makeshift grave, essentially going ahead and digging into a big hole where they would eventually deposit their dead comrade. Redraw their heads. Their big comrade. And with shovels in hand, they go ahead and start digging dirt out and out and out all over again until this happens. They finally have a big enough hole. They go ahead and start discussing about eulogies and things, and then, well, they first put in the body. They start putting in the body, but then realize that eulogy needs to be said. Someone needs to remember how they do the service. No one can remember it. Some guy is able to read at least one line from the service, and so they tell him to read that. That's better than nothing. And then, well, after all those attention and the services, or at least the makeshift services going on, and there's a service and speech, they finally decide to bury him. They put him into the grave. What happens next? Beyond me, but it's probably going to be an interesting ordeal either way. Now that he's in the grave and that the service is technically over, they decide to go ahead and abandon the place. But our sergeant, our Timothy, decides to start burying the corpse, even though bullets are still whizzing by him. The lean is saying the adjutant is trying to convince him to not because, as I said, bullets are flying around and he might die while he's burying him, but he refuses. In fact, he's his superior, so he has no say over him. And he starts going ahead and plop, buries him until he's not there. That's it. That's the whole story of The Upturned Face. Now, my thoughts about The Upturned Face. Remember, keep in mind, I'm not going to do Death of the Artist. I don't really believe in Death of the Artist here. Stephen Crane is a war correspondent. He probably was a war correspondent or training to be one when he wrote this book. When he wrote The Red Badge of Courage, he had absolutely no idea, has never experienced war at all, and just rewrite accounts from other people. He uses secondary sources as his material, obviously, and then when he actually experienced war as a war correspondent for the first time, he realized that the Red Badge of Courage is fine, and that it was fine in depicting battles and things, because it was pretty accurate compared to his real-time correspondence of the things. So with this Upturned Face, we finally get to go somewhere. In my opinion, The Upturned Face is more of like that short story where he just wrote it to go ahead and describe what people might do and the little moments that happen in the war. You know, like one-shots of war times, one-shots of what's happening to a comrade and their dead comrades in the war. That's what a one-shot is, essentially, if you know what I'm talking about in layman's terms. It's a shot of a period of time in the middle of the war. And I think that's exactly what The Upturned Face really does. It shows us everything that literally happened in the middle of the war after the dead comrade, and how they buried him and how they thought through all this. and what they're feeling right now, or at least what they're implied to be feeling. So if you want to read the upturned face, it's definitely worth it. It's only about 8 pages either way, so go ahead. It's probably going to only take you like 30 minutes to read the whole short story. So I guess until next time, Shihana, peace, bye bye. Next time we'll be doing the open boat.